Certain Affinity welcomes you to another Forge tutorial. This video is going to cover a lot of information about setting up spawning in Forge. Note this can get a little complex as the spawning system has a lot of intricacies. In the end, all you really need to know for a functioning map is how to place spawn points. We'll cover that in this video and then lead into some of the more complicated stuff. To place any spawn point, press X to access the object menu, and then select the spawning category. In Halo 4, players will only respawn at spawn points placed on the map. And there are two types of spawn points, initial spawns and respawn points. The difference here is pretty straightforward. Initial spawns are only used at the start of the match. It's important when placing these to specify which team you want to spawn there, and then provide enough points for the entire team to spawn together. It's a good idea to place 8 initial spawns per team to make sure you have enough. After the initial spawn, respawn points will handle the spawning for the rest of the match. It's a good idea to place a lot of these on your map. Generally speaking, the more spawn points there are to choose from, the better the spawning will be. As an example of how many is a good amount, there are over 70 respawn points placed in Haven, which is the smallest map in Halo 4. Note that once you've got initial spawns for each team and a bunch of respawn points placed, you're essentially done. When you die, there's a lot of information calculated in the background to make sure that it picks the best spawn possible. Usually this is going to be enough to select good respawn points. However, if you need players to spawn in certain areas more often than others, then you can use respawn zones to adjust where players are most likely to spawn. Respawn zone and respawn zone weak both make it more likely that you'll spawn at the spawn points inside of that zone. The default respawn zone makes it significantly more likely, while the weak zone is very slight. Anti-respawn zones make it less likely that you'll spawn inside of the zone. Remember, these are simply influencing the spawns, not strictly saying spawn here only. The best way to get the results you want is by testing your map. There's a few options which can be adjusted on any spawning object. With the respawn zone selected, hit X to access the object properties. The team setting can be changed to make a respawn zone or point only function for a specific team. This is useful when you want a certain team to respawn inside of an area. Select Advanced. Here you can change the game type labels when adjusting spawns for certain modes. Note that you'll need to set game specific to true anytime you're adjusting spawns for a specific game type. Let's look at a few examples. Remember that anytime you're editing objects for a specific game mode, you must be in that mode already. So don't launch basic editing, launch Dominion, Extraction, CTF, etc. We touched on capture the flag spawning in our mode tutorial, but to refresh, there are 2 different respawn zones for each base in CTF. One for when the flag is on the stand, and one for when the flag is away. Placing a respawn zone, then hitting X to access the properties menu, you want to look at the team setting. The team setting needs to match the flag stand so that the correct team spawns near the flag. And then select Advanced. Make sure that game specific is set to true, and then change the game type label to CTF Res Zone. If you aren't able to change the label, make sure you launch CTF and not basic editing in Forge. The away zone setup is identical. Set the team, game specific, and the game type label. This time the label will be CTF Res Zone Away. This causes players to spawn at respawn points inside the volume when the flag is away, and the other respawn zone is disabled until the flag is captured or returned. For Dominion, place a normal respawn zone around your site. Select it, and then hit X to access the properties. And then go into Advanced. The spawn sequence will have to be changed to match the rest of your base. In this case, it's base A, so the spawn sequence will be 1. And then set game specific to true, making this respawn zone only apply for Dominion. For the game type label, change it to Dom Res Zone. That's it. Now teams which own this base will only spawn at respawn points inside of the respawn zone. If you own multiple bases, then it will pick between the respawn points at both zones. There's a slew of other game type labels used for spawning. In each case, remember to toggle game specific to true. Since Flood is technically a free-for-all mode, there are specific labels used for which spawns are in Flood and which are free-for-all. These labels are Flood Spawn and FFA Spawn. There's also a Team Spawn used for team game types. All 3 of these labels are important when setting up initial spawns for those modes. Hopefully that answers everyone's questions regarding spawning. If you have any additional questions, it may be useful to check out our game type labels video or our game mode tutorials for additional information. They'll be linked at the end of the video. From all of us at Certain Affinity to all of you, Forge on!